Well, everyone, it's almost June of 2022. The new consoles have been out for 18 months, and in the land of PC gaming, we've really had a lot to struggle with. Because as our PC components got more and more expensive, and some games got more technologically demanding, well, what happened is these consoles came out, and they were incredible bang for the buck when it came to raw performance. But now, the price things are beginning to be better for PC. And we are actually seeing a few moves in the market that are absolutely incredible for our access to games. The lead of today's story is Sony, because they've talked about their future plans, and they're actually really good for PC gamers, but there's a few other brilliant indicators as well.
Absolutely. PC's ready to reclaim its throne. It took a while, right? That's the thing. Everyone was like, oh, PC's always king, but then the cycle is a new console comes out. New console's like pretty good bang for buck, and obviously they still are good bang for the buck. But now, with what Sony have sort of said to their investors, PC's actually going to be taking more of the throne than ever before, which I think is really fantastic.
That's it. People always used to say the best way to play was PC and a PlayStation, so you could get all the exclusives, but then, of course, everything else in the PC, which would include Microsoft. Yeah. But now, you're getting more and more Sony on PC. Yeah. So, to outline what's actually happened with Sony, because they've just given their investors an update, here's the big slide, right? This is exponential growth to be sustained by PC titles beyond fiscal year 2022. Now, look at those net sales and their estimate for fiscal 22. I mean, it goes from 80 million to 300 million. They are projecting massive growth. I mean, you look at their titles that have came out, they have actually, and this is a decently rare thing, they've given us sales figures. Yeah. So, Horizon Zero Dawn, lifetime unit sales, basically 2.4 mil. 2.4 mil. 850k for Days Gone, and just shy of 1 million sales for God of War. That is just awesome for Sony, especially considering those are games they already made. Games that are already extremely successful in their home platform.
Yeah, all they had to do to get 4 million more sales and $100 million revenue was port 3 games. Games that are already running on, obviously it's not, the same hardware, but x86, PS4 is just a small PC. So that's all they obviously took a little bit of work for Horizon and stuff. Especially they did put a lot of work into God of War with Santa Monica for PC settings and accessibility and stuff.
Beautiful port.
That was fantastic stuff. But that's obviously it's paid back. And it's like you kind of look and go, God of War not even selling 1 million. That's a bit kind of grim. But that's from January when it released to March.
Yeah.
So that could be a lot bigger right now. Even.
Yeah. And the lifetime sales are almost certainly going to be fantastic. And if the next God of War game comes out on PC, expect to see PC gamers pick up the first God of War, right? And some of these are impressive. I mean, Horizon broke 20 million sales this year. And that actually means that, like, about 10% of Horizon is PC, even though it had been out on, of course, the PS4 for such a long time.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I think they've learned there's a lot of people who are PC gamers, God bless you, who aren't going to budge and go console because they play on PC. And obviously, unless you're into those kind of games, you're definitely going to be on PC, like, regardless. It's not going to take you away. But now they're coming to you. And that's the power of PC gaming being this eternal mountain. It's like, no, we're here. You come to us if you want us to play your games. And I think that's been proven to happen now.
Yeah, and what is incredible is what they are forecasting and what that means. So they're saying 300 mil by the end of this fiscal year, which would be like, April next calendar year. Now, we know that Uncharted Legacy of Thieves is coming out on PC. We kind of have to wonder what else.
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about that. I think one game that will probably actually do quite well on PC. Think of it. Now, this year, about 20% of their releases are going to be on PC. That's going to be 30% by 2025. So take a look at this graph. The little blue bit, that is PC. That is releases by platform. And you can just see what they're intending. It's getting thicker and thicker and thicker, to the point where PC is larger than mobile and actually is, it's kind of standing up there with the PS5.
Yeah, now obviously this isn't going to be new games releasing. This is just going to be back catalog releases for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
But as soon as you get into like the 2025 estimate, depends on how long they're afraid of cannibalizing the PS5. But especially with, the next wave of hardware coming, we're just going to see PS5 games on PC before too long. Some people are suggesting we might even see it this year because of Demon's Souls. There's no evidence for that. It's just like, everyone has this feeling that it makes sense, especially after Elden Ring doing well on PC and stuff. So they might try to capitalize on that, and we'll see how well, obviously the PS5 is a great bit of hardware, but we'll see, will PC hold up to it? Almost certainly yes.
Now, I'm seeing right here something called Oregon with an exe called tourist.exe and a bunch of tags. Explain to us what tourist.exe is.
It's Sony and Housemarque trying to be very smart. That's what it was. So people spotted this Oregon tourist.exe on SteamDB and saw the tags and went, single player, online co-op, third person shooter, bullet hell, atmospheric, sci-fi, third person, female protagonist, Roguevania. That sounds a lot like Returnal. Everyone's like, sweet. Obviously, well, might be. Seems about right. They've done the same with other games trying to hide their release. And then people looked at the localization strings for the rich presents, what you see your friends doing on Steam. Those are just public. I don't know if there's a way to make them private, but someone at Sony forgot that they're there. So Atropos, Helios, Tower of Sisyphus, all of those nouns, all of those game modes, it was like, oh, it's Returnal. And that now marks, I think, well, Uncharted's visible, right? Uncharted's visible, it's there. There's Returnal, and then there's a couple of other Sony games, like Sackboy: A Big Adventure, that are just up there on Steam, waiting for the games to be ready and release.
And of course, we now need to go back to that NVIDIA leak.
Yep.
We had, at the time, no idea how true that NVIDIA leak would prove to be. So it was a GeForce Now leak, and it showed these games, right? God of War, Returnal, Legacy of Thieves. VR game from FromSoft that I wasn't aware of. Ghost of Tsushima, Sackboy: Big Adventure, Ratchet & Clank, Demon's Souls, Horizon Forbidden West, Gran Turismo 7, and Helldivers 2, which isn't announced yet. Those were all present on the GeForce Now thing, and we've actually seen God of War and Legacy of Thieves, and then, of course, Returnal. We're now fairly sure it is going to come out. And that just does mean a bunch of these games are probably going to come out. And when I think about those, Ratchet and Clank and PC, for me, that would be really cool.
Sure, yeah.
I do wonder how they would get that to work, considering that Ratchet and Clank did seem to heavily rely on the unique memory or storage architecture of the console. But I think one game or two games that are going to be an utter success. It's got to be Ghost of Tsushima and Demon's Souls.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow.
Demon's Souls it's one of the two games from FromSoft in the Soul series that aren't available on PC.
Yeah.
So everyone will immediately jump as soon as assuming they keep the price reasonable, because $70 for Demon's Souls is maybe asking a little bit much on PC. But then you look at the price of Sony's games on PC, and they are like 40 quid. They are a bit lower. So maybe they'll go, okay, here's Demon's Souls, your PS5 game, a little bit of a discount. It's on PC. It'll support all the PS5 features because it kind of has to on strong hardware. And that's just going to, especially after Elden Ring's kind of blown that series up again, it's just going to be massive. And then everyone's like, where's Bloodborne? And it's still nowhere in sight, but it's just going to work. And Ghost of Tsushima, of course, Trek to Yomi, I think kind of got a lot of spread and publicity because everyone, Ghost of Tsushima, but small and indie and 2D. Okay. So, obviously that hitting PC is just going to open up massively. And also, I think it's a really good game. And not a really good game in the way that PC gamers will look at, a lot of big blockbusters and go, movie game? I don't want movie game, I want game. And Ghost of Tsushima is very much a game with movie inspirations.
Yeah.
So I think that'll work really well for the market, for sure.
But the thing is, it's not just Sony. That's what's really cool. I think Sony's the leading thing here because that's one of the largest changes in the industry. Yeah. A little bit like that time, a long, long time ago, when a lot of the Japanese games only came out on consoles and you just had no hope in PC. And if you were going to get it, it would be the worst port you could possibly imagine.
Yep.
I think we're seeing a similar shift here from Sony, just that they're actually coming out. I know Horizon had issues, but certainly with God of War, that showed that they had a willingness to take it seriously and do it right.
Yeah, and Horizon's issues basically went away with patches.
Yeah.
They genuinely supported that. They genuinely tried. And that's one of the best things about their brand being attached to this so heavily. They really have the impetus to actually make sure it works okay. And I think Returnal specifically is going to be a great game for PC kind of oriented gameplay. It's got that roguelike stuff. Playing it with mouse and keyboard is going to be really, really fun. Assuming you can tone some of the aim assist stuff down a little bit. But that's going to be an extremely fun game. If they can target the pricing there, that's going to be absolutely massive. And it's Housemarque, who are really good at making arcade games. That's going to be a great PC port, for sure. For sure.
And when we move outside of Sony, well, Microsoft, that's all obvious wins.
Everything.
You know, need anything else be said, really?
Avowed, Fable, Forza, well, there you go.
Yeah, so many games.
Yep.
I guess that's the thing, because Xbox Game Studios are just, you know, a little bit behind in the calendar, let's just say. It means that a lot of the benefits that PC gamers will see from that cross-platform approach haven't actually been realized yet.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing for Steam players specifically. It's very much the same issue that people are talking about with Game Pass, where it's just, where's all the big games? Like, they're coming slowly, but they are coming, and they will be on Steam.
Yeah, another interesting potential win is Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, the second, coming out on Steam potentially, because a COD page on Steam actually has Modern Warfare 2 art that has since been removed. Now, Battle.net is, I mean, it is a third-party launcher, so for a lot of people that's annoying. For a lot of us who maybe play World of Warcraft or something, we've always been used to the Battle.net launcher. I think most people will say that it's a decently small, well-scoped launcher that typically runs quite well. BNet's not a bad experience.
It's the best thing Activision have made.
Yeah, it's great. So that they would be willing to do that and give Steam, ultimately because of the revenue split, it'll be 20%, not 30%, but that they're willing to give Steam that cut really shows, I think, that after Vanguard, they may be realizing that the default Call of Duty audience is getting a bit weary, a bit tapped out, and maybe they're thinking, okay, is there a bit of a Steam audience that just hasn't paid attention to us for years and has always just kind of, you know, cast us off? But they may be thinking, well, Modern Warfare 2019 was so good, and it got so many people back into the franchise. What if we could recapture that again, but this time we put it in Steam to get more of the PC market? Maybe that's what they're thinking.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier about PC being this mountain. I think PC gaming is like a mountain that everyone has to come to and won't move for anyone else, but Steam is definitely like the majority of that mountain. That's definitely like, there are like 28 million concurrent users a lot of the time on Steam. And they are just there waiting for people to come and, so, you know, would you like to play this game, sir? And they're like, absolutely yes. I would like to play Modern Warfare 2 on my terms, because I'm not playing them on your terms, because I have all the games in the world at my disposal. And that's kind of the thing where the consumer at Steam is king.
Yeah.
And you're starting to see that really happen.
Now, Weebs.
Yep.
Big wins for the Weebs.
Oh,
now, I didn't write that. He wrote it.
Honestly, we're eating exceedingly good. Now, if not for the fact I'm a little bit busy with a bunch of stuff, and also I kind of like playing some stuff on PS5 more than PC these days, because I need a new graphics card, please, or a new power supply, something, anything, please. But yeah, like Project Eva Megamix Plus releasing on Steam was like, a couple years ago, I'd have thought that was momentous. I'd have thought, holy shit, a Project Eva game, because they're usually like Sony exclusive. Like, on Steam? That doesn't sound right. What timeline have we jumped into?
Yeah.
But to me, I was like, oh, of course it is. Of course it is, because everything Sega, everything Capcom does is going to PC and running well. Like, Monster Hunter Rise is a good example as well, where obviously I have friends who played that on Switch because it was out there first, but then they bought it on Steam when it came out on Steam because PC's going to run at 60. Switch runs it at 20-something, basically. So like that PC gaming is the best place to go, and everyone, even competing with Switch, like put it on PC as well. Go for it. Everyone's going for it big time.
That's funny with this age of mobile games that are like big real games, right?
Yeah.
So even looking there, like if you enjoy Breath of the Wild or something, Genshin Impact is a different game. Yeah. There's obviously similarities.
It's not on Steam now, but it's on PC. Like,
but yeah, it's on PC, so you can play Genshin Impact on PC. Honkai Impact.
Yeah, which is a completely, obviously it's got gacha elements and stuff like that, but it is obviously it's mixed reviews overall for a variety of reasons, but generally speaking, it's a fun character action game. So if you want a little free to play, just a little have fun with anime style action, it's literally there. And it's, you know, from what I played, pretty good.
Yeah, then Xenoblade Zone Zero, Honkai Star Rail.
All coming to PC.
Yeah.
And they're going to be, hey, we've taken all this gacha money from Genshin. We don't know what to do with it. We've hired thousands of employees. Let's just make massive games all day. Here's Genshin, but it's turn-based combat. Have that. Here's The World Ends With You. I had a baby with Jet Set Radio Future. in this new
Whoa.
urban fantasy world that is an action game. Have fun. Probably going to be free to play. Probably going to be on PC. Wild.
Ni no Kuni Crossworlds. Now, that's a game that if it weren't for the NFT stuff, the cryptocurrencies being deeply ingrained in the game, maybe you'd want to play that, but I guess it's on PC. And also, Diablo Immortal, PC beta, June the 2nd.
Yeah.
And if we're going to talk about the why here, basically it's like PC is just a neutral platform that's humongous. Nobody can ignore it because you can get so many sales. Steam hit a new peak of 28.4 million active users recently. Looking here, this tweet from analyst Daniel Ahmad just saying, January 2019, that peak, 17.6 million. Now it's 28.2. It's approaching doubling.
Yeah.
That is so impressive.
I mean, that's the thing. I think it was recently talked about 120 million users or something like that. Probably more. But you think about the install base, right? Think about it in those terms. If you're going to be, if you're a developer or a publisher, or a platform even, you're like, okay, well, the PS4's over 100 million install base, and that's absolutely gigantic. Like, yeah, so does Steam. And that's not going anywhere with the console generation. People are invested there. People have deep, deep roots in there. That's 100 million people that will buy your game if it's good. And that's the best part about Steam. If the game's good for them, they'll buy it.
Yeah.
Because that's how a good consumer first platform works.
Yeah, and I guess on the PC thing, just the final thing that you picked up, and I've been, I have a 3070 in my laptop, and that's just where I am. Yeah. So I'll be fine for a decent while, but just hearing that the 4060 is supposedly on par with a 3080?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah. There's a little bit of an asterisk to that where people are kind of, that's rumored stuff. Generally, I think people are a little bit concerned about the RRP of the next gen of cards might be a bit higher than we expect. And also the power draw of NVIDIA's next cards is going to be a bit steeper. So that's going to mean like laptops are a little bit kind of shit out of luck. But if you have a decent, if you've got a home PC setup with, you've budgeted a couple 100 watts above because that's what you do for efficiency. Obviously, you get an 800 watt platinum power supply, last you forever. That'll be fine. So for people who are like in that kind of mid-budget PC range, next gen stuff's going to be completely available to you. That whole era of sorry, this game is just not going to run very well for you. Obviously, there are issues like the Unreal Engine, like stutter and stuff like that need kind of worked out individually or at a decent level. But stuff like that's kind of Alex Battaglia of Digital Foundry is on a personal crusade. Just like, why is every Unreal Engine game that you put in PC stuttering? Stop this.
I had no idea.
It's shader pre-compilation stuff.
Wow.
Where Horizon actually annoyed people when it launched on PC because it had this really long pre-compilation of shaders to avoid that. So other people haven't been doing that and it's caused them like stutter and stuff. So there's a couple of issues, but performance-wise in terms of raw power, almost certainly going to be there. Maybe not cheaper than a console, not cheaper than a console for a long time, but available and affordable enough for a PC enthusiast.
Well, hey, if Sony are able to continue doing what they achieved with God of War, then at least that does give us some hope that you can have these incredible, visually incredible games that are actually scalable. Yeah. Because the scalability of God of War, like you look at the headlines and you almost don't believe them, right? That it's so, like that. What an achievement! So that's essentially all we have for you today. Just pointing out, because it's important to point out when things are going good. Yeah. And actually, this is a really great time to be a PC gamer. We are getting, in some ways, actually a lot more choice. A lot more people are coming to our platform. And that's just brilliant. There's nothing else to say. It's just brilliant. I hope you can leave this video feeling pretty positive about your hobby. And sometimes when you're covering the news all the time, it's hard to feel like that. But really, you should feel like that because it is good. It's really good. Games are great these days.
Yeah, I mean, even, don't want to go too deep into anecdotes, but even just like, if you like a decent indie and you're on Steam, sometimes you'll just open Steam like, oh, I didn't even know they released that. There are so many games because it was the Team Ladybug, the people behind Toho Luna Nights and Deedlit's Labyrinth, just stealth dropped a shmup on Steam for like 11 quid. Or like, you wouldn't get that experience anywhere else. You just wouldn't. It's just, here you go. Here's a great game right in front of you. Do you want to give us a tenner for it? You're like, yes, of course. Of course. It's a great thing. PC game is great. So
there you go. Feel good about stuff. Have a great day. We've got content on the channel from yesterday. There will be content tomorrow, so stay tuned. See you next time.